Top story this hour, DA Gauteng leader Msimanga has been re-elected as provincial leader. Let's take you there now. He is with senior reporter Aviwe Mtila, who's going to be in conversation with him.
A very jovial Msimanga here, of course, re-elected to lead the province of Gauteng into not only the 2024 elections, but also the 2026 local government elections. We have it on good authority that he received more than 60% of the votes from the 752 delegates that were in support, of course, of this provincial Congress itself. Let's catch up with Msimanga. Let's find out how he feels. Solly, big task ahead. Thank you for joining us at the eNCA. There are talks of a moon pact. There's a lot to look to ahead of the elections. What will you be focusing on?
Well, look, I think we're going to be focusing on two things mainly. One is that we need to make sure that we register as many people that are not registered. The second thing is we're going to canvass like hell. We're going to need to make sure that the 14 million people that are registered but not voting, we are going to need to tap into that market and make sure that we enthuse young people, all people, to come out and vote on election day. It doesn't help that people are going to be protesting by banning, the infrastructure that they need. The best and the biggest toy that they can ever do is to come out and vote for an alternative. And we are going to be demonstrating that we are that alternative that Gauteng has been waiting for. We're not going to be behaving like Father Christmas or Mother Christmas that dish out jobs just before elections. We are going to work on the economy going immediately from there. We're going to work on the infrastructure immediately. We are going to work on the safety. We are going to work on health. And these are things that this team and the team that, have been here have given us that mandate to then say, go and put a manifesto together that you're able to then put as a blueprint that you can go and present to the people of Gauteng and say, here are the two parties, contrast the two and see which party will be able to then give you what you need in order for your life to change for the better.
Now, we know from John Steenhuisen mentioning that there's a first Moon Pact Commission that's happening a week from now. Will it also look at the province itself, and who will you be working with? Which parties will be there?
Well, I'm glad that, we are now having a mandate that we can go to the Moonshot Pact meeting where we will be talking at a national level, first of all, because then agreement needs to say, how do we envision a South Africa that is working contrary to what we're having right now? And that will then come to the provinces where the provincial leaders, guided by what the national leaders have agreed on, will then say, what does Gauteng look like right now? What does Gauteng have to do to ensure that we're able to then turn things around? And then if we to take the line from the national leadership, what do we do at a provincial level to then implement, a Moonshot Pact and ensure that going to elections, we're not going to have the disaster that we've had in a number of municipalities where it's all about positions, but not about how do we work together to deliver. This is why the Moonshot Pact is going to be very much important in Gauteng, where we discuss about what needs to be done, not who gets to be in the position first of all, and then we can talk about the positions later on.
Now, we know that the Democratic Alliance is largely relying on a coalition ticket to govern in 2024 if they do get the numbers. How are you going to navigate around what we're seeing, the deterioration, especially around Gauteng, of services, while these big wigs fight it out for these positions and mayoral positions? How are you going to deal with the issue of coalition? Well,
look, first of all, I don't think that my team wants to go into these elections wanting to come as number two. We are going there, we are chasing after 1.37 million votes currently that we had the previous time. We're chasing after 10% of the unregistered. We're chasing after 10% of the registered that are not voting. We get that, we're able to then win outright. If we're not able to then do that, we want to go into the coalitions with an understanding of what is it that we want to then achieve. And that means that we're going to have those discussions. Forget about, who gets to occupy what position. We're going to need to say, what does safety in South Africa look like? What does health look like? What does education look like? What does the economy look like? What does infrastructure fixing look like? What does transport look like? We're going to do away with e-tolls. Panyaza's been promising us to do away with the e-tolls. They're still standing. We are now having infrastructure that is falling apart. We have now Panya left, right, and center. And I can tell you right now, it is bankrupting this province here, because we're going to go into next year's elections and find that this province is bankrupt financially. We're going to need to start from there and say, how do we then build up? And by the way, these people are not even given permanent positions. Next year, by the time the elections come, these contracts will come to an end. They will be toying and say, but you promised us positions, you promised us work, you're not going to be able to do that. This is what the Moonshot Pact is going to need to grapple with and say, how do we put plans to deal with all these things and ensure that when we hit the ground the first 100 days, at least you're able to then show some level of improvement or at least some change, whether it's internally in the administration, there should be some changes that people begin to feel that this is tangible. If we can agree on that as the Moonshot Pact, then it makes the job of then saying who is going to be assisting us to achieve that a whole lot easier. You don't start by saying who gets to occupy what position. You start by saying what do you want to achieve, and then you go to who is going to help you achieve that. And that's what we are going to go into this Moonshot Pact meeting hoping to achieve. And once we can achieve that, we can then talk about who's going to assist us in achieving that mission going forward.
And I'm sure, just lastly, you've had time to reflect on your last tenure as a leader of Gauteng for the Democratic Alliance. What will you do differently now from that? What have you reflected on?
Well, there's quite a number of things. I think one is that the structures need a whole lot more support than what they've been getting. And we're just coming out of, the COVID, where physical meetings had not always been possible. We want to then ensure that there's more physical meetings, there's more activities on the ground where the leaders of the Democratic Alliance, the regional leaders, the constituency leaders, the provincial leaders, even the national leaders are more on the ground, physically going to see what is the situation, physically engaging with communities and telling them, what is the alternative. As I said earlier on, people know what's wrong. They want to know what is the alternative. So that's what we're going to do. So that is what we're going to do. Slightly different is that we're going to be more out there engaging with our communities than we have been doing before. What we're also going to be doing is that we're going to be strengthening our structures, because before, what used to happen is that there used to be a top-down approach in terms of instructions then coming from national leadership to say this is how we're going to do things. My take now is that the structures at the bottom must dictate to the provincial leadership and to the national leadership to say, well, this is what works in this area, and we want to ensure that you empower us, you fund us to do what needs to be done, and then we are able to then drive those political programs. We are able to then show people that we care. Not tell that people that we care, but we show people that we care, and we can really provide the alternative that they're so much desperately seeking for.
All right, thank you very much, Msimanga, promising to hit the ground running and also be more visible on the ground as he's re-elected the leader of the Democratic Alliance in the province of Gauteng. That's the economic hub, of course, of the country, colleague.
Thank you very much, senior reporter Aviwe Mtila out in Boksburg, bringing us developments around that Congress that took place there, re-electing Msimanga as the DA leader in the province of Gauteng. Still